Hey guys, welcome in. It's Brad with College SportsCast. John and I are here tonight to do week 11 of the Big Fuss Show.
Can I please have your attention?
There's all a commotion around here.
What are you talking about?
Let them yap at you.
It's actually very exciting.
All right, guys, welcome back. It's Brad with College SportsCast. What's up, Hammonds?
What's up, man?
We're here to have a little bit of fun tonight, talk about a few things that in college football and in college basketball, because college basketball started last night.
Yes,
Tip-off
sir.
last night. Yep. So we are now going to integrate college basketball into our show from now till April.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. From now till April.
April, yeah.
Yeah. So
And we had our first upset last night. So
we did.
We did. Michigan State lost to James Madison Dukes. So
Yep. At home, Tom Izzo loses at home opener. He was ranked top 4. He was 4th, I think, wasn't he?
mm-hmm. You know what the thing about it is, you know what makes it tough? I was looking at their schedule. They play Duke and Arizona coming up. And that's a game that they needed to win just to, get off on the right foot. But now, you got to play some tough opponents with that loss hanging over your head. So that's a tough break for Tom Izzo and company to start the year out with.
Well, so, the way I looked at it last night, they shot 5% from three-point line. They went 1 of 20.
I think it's 23. It might have been 23.
That's atrocious.
I think it was 23, but it might have been 20. But
well, ESPN last night had it 1 for 20. I don't know if that's right or not.
It might have been, but anyways, but yeah, there was some nice games on last night, but they wasn't a real big slate because it was the opening night. I felt like Kentucky's backcourt looking really, really good with Dillingham and Wagner and Reeves. I wouldn't go as far as say Kentucky's back, but I will say this, that Kentucky has probably the best backcourt that they've had probably in 3 or 4 years. And they finally got Calipari's kind of team. And
don't forget Reed Shepherd, because he looked awful good last night.
Reed Shepherd played really well. He's a local kid, North Laurel, London, Kentucky, representing in the house. So Rutgers lost to Princeton, which was kind of surprising to me, with Princeton losing their big man from last year and their other guard.
One of those that always knocks off some good teams, though.
They do. They're notorious for making NCAA tournament runs. If you remember, they beat UCLA and the defending champions in '96. And then they come back last year and they beat Missouri in the second round? Or no, it was the first round. First,
yeah.
And
but they're notorious. I mean, they can beat. They run that Princeton style offense stuff, and they've won some big games over the years.
They have. So
Abilene Christian beat Oklahoma State last night as well.
That's another thing that I was going to get at you with. Is it too far-fetched to say that Mike Boynton is on the hot seat? Is it Mike Boynton?
Yeah,
it's Mike Boynton. He only had that one NCAA tournament team, when they had Cade Cunningham. I think it was the year that COVID hit, and they went to the Sweet 16 maybe. And that's really the only really good team that he's had. Well, last year they won some games late in the year, but last year they got penalized for violations by the NCAA, which I thought was kind of absolutely ridiculous. But that's another topic for another day. But they just haven't been a real good team up until that year that they had that 5-star Cade Cunningham when he was at Oklahoma State. So.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. Me and you love basketball season. We're from Kentucky. Basketball is kind of big for us. So anytime in the state of Kentucky, that's everybody in the South really loves football, but Kentucky really loves basketball. So,
Yeah,
when the
if you
basketball
haven't been
season,
and if you haven't been paying attention to the football team in Kentucky, well, I'll just leave it at that. It's been a
well,
it's
I'm
been a
not
tough,
saying that
it's been a tough,
Kentucky
it's been a
Kentucky
tough year.
backs football too pretty good.
They do.
I'm just saying, number one is probably basketball.
But it's been a tough year. They lost to Missouri. They should have beat Tennessee. Well, they should have beat Missouri. Honestly, they was up 14-0, and the wheels came off. They should have beat Tennessee. They had plenty of opportunities. And last week they beat a terrible Mississippi State team. So you can't really gouge that game, to be honest, because Mississippi State is going through a kind of a.
Well, speaking of some of those things, we're going to get into some of the SEC and some football. But before we do, I want to kind of run through what's going on the bottom of the screen there for you guys. This is the College Sportscast Big Fuss Show. This is week 11. Please visit homefieldapparel.com. Christmas season is upon us, and you can get some really cool gifts and some really cool retro.
Actually, it's Thanksgiving season. Are you skipping Thanksgiving? Come on now, Brad.
People shop already. I can tell you that.
Yeah, they do.
People are shopping.
I will vouch for
that. People are already shopping, I know for sure. So if you are and you want to get some really cool vintage premium collegiate gear, over 180 teams and schools are represented by homefieldapparel.com. Please use our code CSCast for a 15% discount. And you can pick you up a really cool gift like retro logos and mascots, throwback championship teams.
They even got throwback hats, the snap hats.
They have snapback hats and throwback hats, and they have some really cool gear there. So use our code CSCast.
Hey, Blake Hoagland, if you're listening, I know you like that kind of stuff. It's out there, my man.
Yeah, man. It's homefieldapparel.com is where to go.
Because I know that Blake Hoagland posts a lot of retro stuff. Like he's into the whole.
A lot of people really like the vintage stuff, and this is a great place with, like I said, over 180 teams representative on the collegiate level. They do mainly collegiate stuff. They are out of Indianapolis, so they do have some Indianapolis Colts stuff. If you are a Colts fan,
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm digging that Georgetown retro hat. Like I'm thinking about getting it for me. Like it's nice.
Use our code, man. I'm serious. Yeah. Like they've got some really cool stuff. So I just want to throw that out there. And the rest there, we are presented by the Fanboys. Let's Talk Sports, Sideline Sports, the Real Fresh Channel, and WSBN TV Channel 30. So with that said, we're going to get to some college football stuff now. So I'm going to run through some teams in the bottom half of the SEC. Okay.
Abagainsian. I had to get you on that one, my man.
I don't know what that says.
Oh goodness.
Let me fix that, because that's not exactly what that's supposed to say.
I had to pick at you, man. I had to give you a hard time about it. It's supposed to be Abilene Christian. I know what it meant.
Yes. I don't know what that is.
Hey, we have fun here at College SportsCast. We have to have a little comedy mixed in with it. So
I don't know what that was supposed. That was actually. It's not going to fix because I can't. It's not going. Yeah, it is.
well,
It's going to say it's not going to let me save it.
I'll even go. I'll start on
All
this
right.
one.
So we're going to start. We're going to start here, and if you'll notice on the bottom, I'm going to change it up, and the ticker should change. So I'm going to start and tell you that Texas A&M is 5-4. Their remaining games are home at Mississippi State, then Abilene Christian at home, and then their last game is away at LSU. So first, how do they finish the season? What do you think?
7-5. They beat Mississippi State and Abilene Christian, and they lose to LSU. LSU's got a really dynamic offense, with Jaden Daniels, which he's in concussion protocol this week, which he'll probably be back before then. But LSU's offense is just really, really good, and A&M don't have the offense to keep up, I don't think, with Max Johnson. They got a decent defense.
So you think they go 7-5? So if they go 7-5, you got them going bowl.
I do. I think it's probably going to be the Texas Bowl, maybe. They might get into the might be a Liberty Bowl. This has been a very subpar year for A&M with a lot of expectations that they had coming in.
So at the bottom now says, does Coach Fisher remain at Texas A&M with a 7-5 record, coming off of a 5-7 record last year?
I think they give him one more year. I do. As much as a lot of people say, well, he's on the hot seat. Yes, he's on the hot seat, but I think they're going to give him one more year to try to figure this out, especially with the recruiting class that they got coming in, which they've had the top 5 recruiting class the last 3 years, and they just haven't done anything with it. They haven't been able to produce on the field. So I think they give him one more year to get his shine on and figure things out.
Well,
but I'll say this: another abysmal season like we have this year. I think Texas A&M moves on next year. Their program's got a lot of tradition in it. Especially in the past with R.C. Slocum, the teams that they had back in the day, back in the early '90s and such, and the coaches that they've had there, Dennis Franconi. I think Texas A&M won't put up with it. So I think it's
even Kevin Sumlin was doing better than what Jimbo.
He has, and I think this is a trial by fire. And I think next year we see what they can do. And I think if it's another year like this, I think they pull the plug on Jimbo Fisher and they move into another direction.
All right, I just wanted to see there's some coaches here. I'm just wondering, who you think's going to go, who's going to stay. So we're going to run through some of this. And the next one that I want to talk about is the Florida Gators. The Florida Gators, I want you to listen to this now. They are 5-4. 2 weeks ago, they were 5-2. And we were talking about them maybe, having a little bit of something to say by the end of the season, okay? Mm-hmm. But they're now 5-4. The remaining games are at LSU, at Missouri, and then home against FSU. So, again, my question is, how do they finish the season?
Okay, let me go and say this. The most winnable game on that list is Missouri.
It might be this week. It might be this week.
Well, it might be this week.
If Daniels was still in protocol,
but still, LSU has a lot of weapons to work with. That this is tough, man, because you put me on the spot. I'm going to go 5-7. I don't think they get to a bowl. I don't think they go to a bowl. And you even said it. You even said it at the preseason. You said they'll go 5-7. You didn't think they'll even get to a bowl. So,
I did.
and with this
I did
schedule,
actually predict them 5-7.
with this schedule, it's just tough, man. You got at LSU, even without Jaden Daniels, LSU still got enough firepower to beat them. The question is, how does Florida manage
That
these
Arkansas
last
game they lost over the weekend, John, that Arkansas game they lost at home was huge.
Crucial. It was huge. Yeah.
It was huge. It really was.
And you don't really know. And you don't really know about the FSU game because, that's a rivalry game. But FSU is playing really well this year. But
I mean,
at the same time, it's a rivalry game. And rivalry games, a lot of times you can throw records out. At least most rivalry games, you can throw records out. Now, there's some that's been dominated by the opponent. Tennessee, Kentucky. But at the same time,
Alabama, Tennessee has been dominated too.
Yeah,
so
that's another one. So,
Tennessee can't really say too much.
No, but I'll say this: they'll be 5-7. I think. It's just going to be hard for them to go to LSU and win. It's going to be hard for them to go to Missouri and win, especially with Brady Cook the way he's playing.
They were under 500 last year, and if they miss a bowl and go 5-7 this year, I know that Napier's just in year 2, but we are talking about the Florida Gators here.
He'll be back.
Does he remain the coach for next season?
He'll be back, and I'll tell you why. It's because of his recruiting class. He's got a really good recruiting class.
The third-ranked recruiting class in 24.
And I think now if it wasn't for that, I think there would be a possibility of it. But I just don't see it happening with the class he's got coming in next year. So I think they give Napier.
I still say it's a small possibility.
It's close, but I think they bring him back for another year to see what they can do. So
I think you're probably right because he does have the third-ranked recruiting class right now in 2024.
He does. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, he's.
But to be fair, the last 2 years they've been way below that top 10 standard.
They've been
in the recruiting.
And I tell people all the time, Florida is Florida. Florida is Spurrier, Florida, and those days ain't coming back. I mean, I know people say, well, we can get to that level, but the way the college landscape is, it's just
Urban
difficult.
Meyer got them there for a few years.
They did. It's going to take a top-level coach to get them there. I'm not saying Napier's a bad coach.
Somebody like
I'm not saying Billy Napier's a horrible coach. I'm just saying he's just not a top-level SEC caliber coach. He's good for who he is. And, at the same time, I mean, I feel like, with the way Napier has tried to build things and get things together, he had a quarterback run. He had a quarterback leave. He had a few wide receivers walk out, go to the transfer portal. He had some defensive players leave. A lot of this ain't on Napier. A lot of
linemen or two leave too.
Yeah, which I felt like he had a slam dunk with Graham Mertz. As we look back at it now, Graham Mertz is actually playing better than we thought he would. So, he's got the things there.
He probably has played a little better than we thought he would.
Well, and he's got the things there in place, I think, to make things happen. It's just a matter of, is Florida fans willing to wait it out is the question. So I think they get another year.
All right. Okay. So I'm trying to weigh all this out for you. So my next one, Arkansas. Arkansas is 3-6 after their win against Florida. Their first ever win at the Swamp, by the way. Mm-hmm. Their remaining games are at Auburn and home versus FIU and Missouri. That's a pretty tough schedule right there.
Well, if the Arkansas team that showed up against Florida Saturday, I think there's an opportunity for them to win all three of these games. but winning at Auburn is really tough. The FIU game, they probably most likely win. The Missouri game has been back and forth the last couple of years, so you just don't know, it being a rivalry game, how that's going to go. I'm just going to say they're not going to go to a bowl. I think the only win out of this schedule is FIU. Arkansas has been too inconsistent for me. They look good one week, they look good against LSU, they look good against Florida. Then they had the games against BYU, and what was the other game that they played? It was BYU and
they got beat 7-3.
Yeah, it's just head scratch games, and just games that you don't know what to expect.
Their offense was out to lunch that day.
I'll go as far as saying that if they don't make a bowl, that Sam Pittman's job's on the line.
That's my next question. Does Sam Pittman, as the coach, remain for next year if they miss a bowl?
This is the one I think he could be possibly fired. They got rid of Dan Enos.
Is this his fourth year or third? Third or fourth?
Third or fourth. But they did get rid of Dan Enos, which he had a lot to do with the offensive play calling. It was getting really static with them. He made some moves to improve the offensive side of the ball, but you're going to need better production with the talent that you got, because Arkansas's got plenty of talent out there. It's just a matter of putting it on the field, and they haven't done it this year. KJ Jefferson's been very inconsistent at times. He's made plays when he's had to.
Rocket Sanders has been in and out of the lineup.
Well, he's been out of the lineup, injured. And then you had the game against Mississippi State where they looked like they was playing in quicksand, like they didn't know. And Mississippi State wasn't playing good either. So at the end of the day, I think what's
odd is, like, about 15 months ago, like, everybody was so up on Sam Pittman.
Well, their defense, their front four is probably one of the most underrated front four in the league. It's just their offense has been abysmal at times. Like when they get in the red zone, they're too inconsistent. They can't score. And that's a problem. When you can't score and you can't move the football, you're going to have games like this, like Mississippi State, and games like not LSU, but what's the other game that they played? Was it BYU, where they just have stagnant drives where they just don't result in points? Yeah. So,
all right. Well, that's another one that I wanted to ask you about. My next one we're going to talk about is South Carolina. South Carolina is 3-6. I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong thing there. South Carolina is 3-6. Their remaining games are home. All 3 games, by the way, are at home. I don't know how they pulled this one off.
Yeah,
they get
odd.
They were just at home last week. Their last 4 games are at home. They have 8 home games this year, by the way, when I checked this out. Okay. And they're 3-6.
The two last games are winnable.
Vandy, UK, and Clemson. And they're 3-6. So how do they finish? And do they make a bowl? I think you muted your mic, man.
Oh, my bad. I think they end up 4-8. I think the Vandy game is winnable. Actually, I think all 3 are winnable, but you don't know which South Carolina team's going to show up. The team that gave Georgia all they want, in the first half, and then they just kind of folded in the second half. Or you're going to have a South Carolina team that just let Jacksonville State hang around for 4 quarters. Vanderbilt's a win.
Hey, Ken, if you remember on our game day pick'em on Thursday night, Ken Muss asked me about the Gamecock Bowl, and I told him to take Jacksonville State in 15.5, and it paid off. If he bet it, it paid off.
He bet it. The Vandy game's a win. They'll be 4-6 after this weekend. the Kentucky game and the Clemson game are winnable games, but it just all depends on which South Carolina team shows up.
So
But
you
I
don't think they
end
make
up,
a bowl?
I don't. I really don't. And
Okay.
I don't think Beamer's gone either after this year.
My next question is does Beamer survive a 4-8 season?
I think he has
when
to with
his
with this.
expectations for this year was to challenge for the second place in the East.
Yes, but South Carolina fans are going to have to be patient. I think they got another good recruiting class coming in next year. I think they give him one more year to kind of balance it out. I just don't see him. They just got him. I think what 2 years ago, 3.
I think this is his third year.
His third year. I mean, it's just going to take some time, and if it don't work out, then South Carolina will move on and they'll figure something out. You got to look at what Shane Beamer was dealt with Will Muschamp's team. He was left with practically nothing. Muschamp, he gutted the program.
Preseason, there was pretty high expectations that South Carolina could challenge Tennessee for the second spot in the SEC East.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not been the year that South Carolina fans have expected. It's just been very mediocre.
And 4-8 is very, very underwhelming to that.
It's very, very.
Even
the biggest issue with South Carolina this year has not been Spencer Rattler. Everybody wants to place the blame on him. It's been the defense.
No, it's not. I will give Spencer Rattler his due. Spencer Rattler has played really, really good.
He has. And the offense, they got, Juice, and then they got Xavier Leggett. They got a really good offense.
That kid has been crazy.
He's tough.
Yeah.
He's NFL caliber type talent. But the defense,
he is.
They couldn't stop a cold. Every team that they played has run up and down the field on them, even Jacksonville State.
I know.
It's been bad.
I know.
If I remember correctly,
they had a decently hard time with Furman early in the year.
Well, I think if I looked at the numbers right, they was giving up early in the year. They was giving up over 400 yards a game and rushing. Now that's embarrassing to me with how much talent you got in that state that you need to recruit and be better with. Like it all boils down to recruiting. Can Beamer recruit in there with Clemson and knock off some guys and get some 4 and 5 stars? Because Clemson's not really doing as good as we thought, but they still got some guys. I mean, they don't have the playmakers, but they still got some guys that make some plays. And we seen that last week against Notre Dame. So yeah. All right. The biggest thing with me with Beamer is, can he compete with Clemson? And right now it don't look like it. I mean, it just don't.
Well, the UK and the Clemson game is going to be pretty telling for them.
It is. I agree with you. And I'll stop you here.
All right. So I threw Vandy in. Vandy is not going bowling. They only have 2 games left. They're 2-8. However, I did want to throw them in for this question.
They only have 2 games. They only have 2 games left.
Yeah, see, they played 2 games in that first week. Remember, they always play in that week
that's right.
0.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, they only got 2 games left. They have a bye week after this coming week, and then come back and play.
They'll probably need it after this.
Yeah, they have a bye week and then come back and play Tennessee. So they're 2-8. They're not going bowling. We already know that. But Clark Lee, I think this is his 3rd year. He come in with Beamer, I believe. Does he remain at Vandy? And I think, he won 2 and then 4 games, and now he's won 2 again. Like, I'm pretty sure.
Here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand about Vanderbilt. They have to recruit differently because of academics.
They do, absolutely.
To me, it's a dead end job. It's sort of like I'm trying to think, like a temple, or it's just a job that you're going into, that you're going to have to know how to recruit and how to get players in there.
Well, the only person that's ever done it in my lifetime that I can remember on the football side is James Franklin.
And he turned Vanderbilt
side. Now, basketball, it's been done.
I think he turned Vanderbilt into a top 25 team. I think they was 16 at one point with Franklin. And
he did.
He had that town buzzing at one point.
He took them to like back-to-back bowls, like pretty decent bowls.
He did.
But my question here is,
I think he gets one more year.
Like, does he survive? Is he completely over his head here? I mean,
here's the thing about the Vanderbilt situation. So they got rid of what's his name? The coach before
Mason.
Mason. They got rid of him. They got rid of him pretty quick. Then they come in and they got Clark Lee. Like, it's just like a rotation of coaches going in and out of Vanderbilt. I think they give Clark another year because you get rid of this coach after what, 2 years? You're going right back again.
I think this is year 3, but he's not.
And you're going.
I mean,
I get it. I do.
He showed a little bit of improvement last year, but.
Well, the issue is you keep recycling coaches, and it's going to keep going back to the same old mess over and over and over. That's like you tell me with Stoops. You lose Stoops, you lose pretty much everything you ever worked for. You the classes, the teams that he's had. It's a hard job in the SEC competing with the top level talent that's up there with Alabama.
Let's be honest here, John. With Texas and Oklahoma coming in next year, they're not going to get any better. Vandy?
They're not. No, the recruiting's going to be tough.
I mean,
I even heard somebody say today, well, I was reading something and they had posted a picture of Saturday's game against Auburn, and Auburn had took over the stadium. And somebody had put above the quote, it was a quote retweet or something on Twitter, and said, we need to just push Vandy to the Sun Belt. And I just kind of thought.
It really is. Like, they are in a tough spot in football.
They are.
Now
basketball, I think Jerry Stackhouse is doing a good job with them.
Basketball, they can climb that mountain in basketball. They've done it before. They can do it in basketball. Football is a different story, different animal.
Well, if you look back to their basketball program was it 08, 09 maybe? They was a messed up play from getting to the final 8 or the final 4. It was a controversial call against Georgetown, I believe. And
well, I mean, the basketball program can climb that mountain.
Well, and they beat number 1 Kentucky back when they had John Jenkins and those guys. They had a decent team back then. Kevin Stallings, he had some players back then, man.
Even back as far as Eddie Fogler and stuff, way back in the 90s. I mean, they've had some really good teams.
They have.
Yeah. All right.
You remember Drew Maddox? Does that take you back?
Yeah.
Drew Maddox was a really good
coach. Now I'm going to get to a couple of first-year coaches in the SEC. And we got Mississippi State, who is 4-5. Their remaining games are at A&M, home against Southern Miss, and then they get the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss. So
I'm going to be honest with you.
Where do you see them finishing? And do you think they can get to a bowl game?
I'm going to be frank with you. And I know I might get jumped all on this, but the way they've been playing, but I wouldn't be shocked if Southern Miss gave them a game. I wouldn't. As bad as they're playing right now, Their offense can't move the football. Now their defense is decent. They held Kentucky to what, 3
They have
points in the
two
second
good
half.
linebackers.
They got some good linebackers, but the offense just can't score. They can't move the football, and their quarterback play has been subpar. They're trying to figure out how to move guys in and out. I'm going to tell you who I feel really bad for is Tulo Griffin, the wide receiver Mississippi State's got, because
he looks so frustrated the other night
he
against
does.
us.
He looked frustrated, and he's had a tough time. This year it's been tough for him. I feel like with what's going on in the program and stuff, I wouldn't be shocked if he left after this year. They've already had 2 guys transfer out this month. I think they had a 4-star just transfer out. I'm going to tell you something about Mississippi State.
They've got some injuries. They've got players already transferring out. So with all of that said, if they do miss a bowl here, does Zach Arnett? I mean, it doesn't look good already in his first year. Like, does he remain for year 2?
It's tough. I think there's a lot of people wanting him fired, especially fans.
After the Mike Leach deal and everything that happened, they felt like their program was in a better spot than what Arnett has done.
He is. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's just a tough situation, to be honest. He walked, Leach gave him plenty of ammunition. He
some offensive weapons, some
defensive things to work with,
players.
And they switched up I think they switched up too quick. They switched up the offense and they tried to go to a pro style.
I said it in the preseason. That's what's going to get him. Is he should have kept the offense. He should have never switched it up with Will Rogers and the people that was already there. He should have never switched up that offense. That was a bad move.
And the question remains now, where does Will Rogers go from here? Does he transfer out after this year? Because if he does, he's one of the hottest quarterbacks on the market.
Yep. Absolutely.
And say they do get rid of Zach Arnett. Do they go outside of the program or do they stay in? Because Mississippi State's more of an inside the program type brand.
Yeah, but I think they will this time, and I think they'll look for an air raid guy.
I think they will. I really do. I think they will.
If they get rid of Arnett, and I think it is a possibility.
It is. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I watched them against Arkansas.
Air raid guy and try to keep Will Rogers there.
I watched them against Arkansas. I watched them against Kentucky. That ain't Mississippi State football. I don't know what that is. I'll be honest with you. I really don't.
Arnett made a huge mistake by switching up that offense.
He did. Moving from a air raid to a pro style kind of hurt where they was trying to go with it. So
you watch, if they get rid of Arnett, they will go after an air raid guy. They might call Garrett Riley.
Don't blame him. Garrett Riley's a good coach.
I'm just saying.
Now
he's not in a great situation either at Clemson.
Well, he's
right
not
now.
At Clemson. They're kind of like a head match right now, headbutting.
I'm just throwing it out there in the dark. Little birdie in my head tells me that they might call Garrett Riley.
They might. Never know.
Just throwing it out there, guys. All right, the next one. This is number 7. This is 7 of the 14 teams in the SEC, by the way, and they're all still with questions. Auburn, 5-4. They finished the season at Arkansas, home against New Mexico State and Alabama.
They're
5-4. Hugh Freeze, first year as a coach. I do want to go ahead and say that I think Hugh Freeze's job is safe no matter what happens here.
He's got a good
but
recruiting class coming in next year.
he does. So I think I just want to throw that out here. I'm not this one. I'm not thinking that he is, not safe. I think he is.
7-5.
You think they go 7-5?
I think they beat Arkansas on the road. I think they beat New Mexico State, but I think they lose to Bama. But I will say this: the last couple of trips to Alabama is it at Alabama?
No, it's at home. No, it's at Jordan-Hare.
Well, the last 2 or 3 meetings that they've had, it's come down to the last few minutes. So
yeah.
But this year, I think it'll be different because I don't think Auburn has the offense to hang with the Alabama defense that they got. They're going to have to make plays. But like I said, you can throw records out when this game usually goes on because usually
you think they do make a bowl game.
I do. I think they go to a bowl. I think they're 7-4 after 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I think
I think Breeze is doing a good job in his first year. I do not think that he is. I'm just putting it up there because I put it up there for the rest of them. I do not think that his job is in any kind of question at all after the first year. And I do think that they do make a bowl.
Mm-hmm.
They will either be 7-5, like John said, or 6-6.
Yeah,
they'll be one of the two.
Either they lose to Arkansas, beat New Mexico State, and lose to Bama, or they win 2 of the Arkansas, New Mexico State, and they lose to Bama. So either way, I think they still get a bowl game.
Right. Oh, I do too. And Hugh Freeze, with the cards that he was dealt, and bringing in Peyton Thorne, using Robbie, the way that he's done and stuff, I think he's done a good job. They have a good defense. They just don't have much offense.
They don't.
For this year. All right. Now,
which will get better because Freeze is a good offensive-minded coach.
Oh, he will. Yeah, I think he most definitely. They'll be better next year. Matter of fact.
Yeah.
Now, with all of that said, John, I want to throw this in here real quick, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. But I know that you keep on Saturdays talking about Stoops and that he should be able to do this and he should be able to do
how
that.
Did I know you going? How did I know you going to bring this in?
Just listen to me. In the SEC now, I'm talking just the SEC. 7 of the 14 teams are behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There are only 5 teams in the SEC that have a better record than Stoops right now. Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Tennessee and Missouri. And that's the 2 that stinks. Because
here is where I want to have a fuss. And we might as well have a fuss.
Not even LSU. Not even Brian Kelly has got a better record.
Listen, I love what Stoops has done for this program. I think he's done unbelievable, to take us from where he has to what he did. But when I say next level, and when I say why I think we need to go to that next level, is games like Missouri and Tennessee this past year. Games that you coming off a bye and you got an opportunity to make a statement. And the last 3 or 4 years, that just has not happened.
Listen, I will fully agree with you because both of those games were at home as well. And we should, at the very least, split those 2 games. We should not lose both.
Oh, I agree with you. That's my biggest thing with Stoops.
And I will be the first to admit that. We at home, we should at the very least split those 2 games.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing. I think that's the biggest issue with Stoops is when it comes time for a big opportunity win, big game, it just seems like okay, let me give you an example. We had, what was it, a couple of years back, we started out 5-0, 6-1. I think it was 2018. And, we had an opportunity when we went into Tennessee to make a statement against Tennessee with the best team that we've ever had, and we laid an egg on the road at Tennessee. And see, there's where I'm getting it at, Jerry. They're not good teams. Now, you've beaten Florida on down years. You've beaten Missouri a couple of years on when they didn't have a lot of talent. But here's my thing. What's going to happen when Oklahoma and Texas comes in and the recruiting gets a lot tougher? The biggest issue
find out pretty damn soon.
The biggest issue with Stoops in the Kentucky program, and I don't put this at the blame of Stoops, I don't put this at Stoops' feet, but is the NIL problem. It rests on Mitch Barnhart and legislation. Now, Mitch Barnhart has a lot of pull because he's the athletics director, but legislation has got to change this to where, okay, you look at Tennessee, they're paying a guy what, $5 million to be NIL deals, like 4 and 5 stars. You got Missouri, you got Luther Burden as a 5-star. You got Georgia, which they're already up there in Alabama
because they have legislation that helps them.
But you got LSU
government legislation that helps
them. We are stuck in a rut with that with Vanderbilt, and we should not be on Vanderbilt's level whatsoever because we're better than Vanderbilt. I remember when we was 2-10, Leah, but at the same time, to improve and get past this whole.
That's what I told John the other night. I said, John,
you have to.
So many times in my lifetime, we've been 3-6 and not 6-3. It's the truth.
It is, but you're going to have to up it a level. Stoops always talks about let's take it to another level. Well, beat the team.
And I think Stoops is trying. I think he's kind of handicapped on the NIL thing a little bit.
Well, my biggest question is he tells the fans to pack the house, right? Missouri and Tennessee games. Well, we pack the house and we do everything we can to make it better. And your team preps the bed on national
weekend. He told them to pack the house this weekend against Bama.
I'm not saying that,
but I don't see that that's going to make a difference. Not really.
How come we can pack the house, but the team sometimes comes out not prepared to play? That's on coaching. That's all I'll say.
All right. I just wanted to throw this out here that we have talked about over half of the SEC and some really good coaches. Jimbo Fisher, we're talking about him getting possibly fired. Brian Kelly, who is thought of as one of the top 5 or 10 coaches in the country, has come to LSU and now he lost 4 games last year. He's already lost 3 this year. I mean, there is just you can look around the SEC and it is not an easy mountain to climb. It's just not. Look at Lane Kiffin. Look at Lane Kiffin.
The recruiting gets tougher every single year.
Every year, Lane Kiffin goes 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, and he finishes 9-4 or 8-5. He can't climb that.
Everybody, I just want to get out the air on it. I do not want Stoops fired. That's not what I'm saying. A lot of people think, well, you just want Stoops to be fired. You want him to get rid of him. That's not what I'm saying. Well, what I'm saying is when we have opportunities like we did with Missouri and Tennessee and some of these games, you got to, twice. No, once. He beat UT twice.
But she is saying that no other coach has. No other coach in Kentucky history has beat Tennessee twice, except until you go back to the 70s and 50s. Nobody, not another coach in Kentucky's history.
I just see it different than a lot of other
true,
people. John. I just see it differently, but that's all right. Everybody has opinions because, it's the truth, but he talks about going next level. Well, you need to recruit better. Like at some point you got to recruit better. Like, start.
He has recruited. He's got
Oh,
top
I'm not
15
saying he
classes.
ain't. I'm talking.
He's in line for a top 20
I'm
class this
strictly
year.
talking NIL stuff. Is what I'm talking.
Yeah.
I'm not
All
talking
right.
about play.
I didn't want to
I'm
get
talking
into a big, long discussion on it, but I did want to kind of show and bring this up and talk about some of the other SEC and just how tough it is in the SEC. From there, guys, I'm going to switch this up to end the show here. We're going to talk a little Kentucky basketball, and I'm going to do this in a way that is a little different from conventional thought, okay? So I seen an article this week that in the past 3 or 4 days that made me start thinking, and I've got some numbers here that I want to show you guys. Kentucky basketball begins the season off the radar as a contender for the first time ever. It's very interesting to me. I was looking at a bunch of bracketologists. I was looking at a bunch of media. I was looking at Fox and CBS and ESPN, and there is nobody, I mean, nobody who has Kentucky as Final Four contenders, not even as dark horse Final Four contenders. And when I look at this, I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know that I have ever seen the national perception that Kentucky is not in the picture, especially when there's this much talent at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a conundrum, and I can't. So
Can I go?
So I think this article, and I'm going to give you the floor here, and then I'm going to get into some stats, and I want us to go through and talk about some of these stats. Okay. So as you can see, I said, and here's why. So I'll give you the floor, and you can kind of tell your why, and then I'm going to give you some stats.
I think a lot of the reason why is because of the last couple of years, the last 3-4 years. You know, they lost to St. Peter's in the first round. Then they lost to Kansas State in kind of I wouldn't say it was a horrible year, but it wasn't up to Kentucky standards. I think, you know, Calipari was kind of depending on the transfer portal a lot, which I think is a great thing. I think the transfer portal is a wonderful thing. But the thing about Calipari that most people don't get is he does so much better when he has his 5-star freshmen and guards that can make plays and make things happen. And what does he got this year? He's got Rob Dillingham. He's got DJ Wagner. He has Reed Shepard. He has Justin Edwards. And then you add in the 2 7-footers, Owinso and Bradshaw. You get these 2 7-footers back, this might be the most athletic length team in the country. And I'm not even playing, because what I watched last night, if Kentucky can do that, which everybody's going to say, well, when they first started out, they didn't play real well. Well, they was getting to know each other. They was kind of getting fresh because they're a bunch of freshmen. But once they hit that gear, what was it, with 16 minutes to go in the second half, Rob Dillingham made a pass. Rob Dillingham hit a shot. Mitchell's another key player from West Virginia. He made a big play. When this team hits another gear with the talent that they got, they can beat anybody on that schedule. Now, what worries me going forward about this team is the lack of big men against teams like Kansas and teams that have some size. Now, what we're going to have to do in those games is we're going to have to play fast. We're going to have to play run and gun type games, and we're going to have to
draw the bigs out.
We're going to have to draw the bigs out. Yes.
Spread the floor. We're going to spread the floor and draw them out
and do it. Now, DJ Wagner didn't play real well last night. He's a freshman. He's going to have nights where he don't play really well. That's just going to happen.
Better than he did the first exhibition game.
But I think the X factor in this whole season He's sitting. He's from North Florida High School. Reed Shepherd.
He is
Reed Shepherd's the X factor, and I'll tell you why. The kid,
the blue.
I'm gonna tell you, people don't understand the kind of player this kid is. I watched him in the 13th region for a long time. I went to many games. I went to many 13th region tournaments. It's like the game comes easy to him. Like it's not. There's no pressure to him, and he just makes plays, and he just figures out how to get the ball to teammates. He knows how to handle the ball. He's just a really solid basketball player. And I'm going to tell you something else about this team. I'm going to tell you something else about this team that I like. And a lot of people, I kind of touched on it last night a little bit. This team don't feel pressured. Have you watched the last 2-3 years where they kind of get in a little jam and they don't know what to do and they kind of feel like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. This team don't act like that. This team wants to win basketball. Win plays, make plays.
There. Let me finish up my topics here, and then we'll get to the end of it.
Back to your topic.
I'll tell you, yeah.
Back to your topic, though. I think a lot of it has to do with
I've got
losing to St. Peter's and the last couple of years with the lack of players that Calipari has had that he's normally not had. That's my take on it. So.
And I thought that's kind of where you would go with it. And I believe that you are right in certain ways. However, I've got some stuff here that I want to bring up to you. And I want to have just a little bit of a discussion on this. Okay. So I think that the game of college basketball has changed in the last 5 to 7 years. It's gotten much older and much more experienced, and it's changed. And I think that is part of the reason why Calipari's teams have started to struggle over the last 2 or 3 years. Okay. Since 2018, there has been 5 Final Fours. There was not one in 2020. The season was canceled because of COVID. So there's only been 5. Okay.
I'm still salty about that, by the way.
So that means that there's been 20 teams since 2018 in the Final Four.
Yep.
That means that there's been 100 starters on 20 teams. Only 7 of those starters on the Final Four teams since 2018 were true freshmen. Only 7 out of 100. That's pretty telling, John.
It is. Experience matters in the tournament. Unless you have a real good offense.
There was a time here where Duke was getting there quite often. You had Kentucky that was in there, and Calipari, 4 out of his first 6 years made the Final Four. So won a championship, made a final game. I mean, but the game has changed, and the first stat is that since 2018, only 7 of 100 starters in the Final Four have been true freshmen. I'm going to take it one more step. Last year, the 4 Final Four teams, 18 of the 20 starters in the Final Four had been in college for at least 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
There was only 1 true freshman starter out of those 4 teams last year. That was on UConn. He was about the 4th or 5th leading scorer.
Yep.
There was only 1 true freshman starter last year. Okay. My next stat is this one, and this one's going to blow your mind. Since 2018, out of those 100 Final Four starters, 74 of them have had more than 2 years college experience. Almost 75% of the starters since 2018 have had more than 2 years experience in college. I'm telling you all of this because I believe that the perception is that college basketball is completely changed and that it's older and it's experienced. And that is why Kentucky has a 16th place ranking. And a lot of these bracketologists don't have Kentucky anywhere near a Final Four run. And I'm going to take it one more step. Of the last 7 national championship teams in college basketball, only 2 of the 35 starters on those 7 teams were true freshmen. None of those 2 were leaders on the team. They were like fourth place scorers on the teams.
Yeah.
The teams that actually has won titles in the last 7 championship teams, only 2 out of 35 players, starters, have been true freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you this, John. Can Kentucky and Calipari and this special class that we all think we have, can they overcome this trend and be special?
I do. I think you seen it last night, with Mitchell and Reeves, and Mitchell and Reeves have been in college for a while. They're 2 experienced guys, and you've added, DJ Wagner, you've added Justin Edwards, you've added Reed Shepherd, and then you add the Rob Dillingham, and then you have the 2 7-footers coming back. So I think there's an opportunity for this team to be special. Now, I was looking at something today, and there was like maybe 2 bracketologists that had picked Kentucky to go at least to the Elite 8. And they was down the list. They wouldn't even know top guys. They was some minor guys that have very few following.
Yes. I'm talking
they're not,
like you have to like really look to even find Kentucky.
And John Fanta, John Fanta is one, the Big East guy. He does not even have Kentucky nowhere near his top 20. Which, granted, he's a Big East guy.
He don't even have him in the top 25.
I get it. He's a Big East guy, and I understand that. That's fine. But if you watch Kentucky play last night in that second half, and you say, well, it's the same old Kentucky, watch it again. Because I was watching a game thread. I went into a game thread of a Kentucky thing, and people was like, oh, it's just the same old team, same old stuff. Did you even watch the game? The guard play has an opportunity to be special. Mitchell has an opportunity to do something that, coming from West Virginia, and he's played at Texas. I can't remember. There's another school he played for, but he's a special player. Reeves is a special player. Reeves was knocking down shots. If you get Reeves knocking down shots,
they are, John, and I believe that this team can be special, but I also believe that college basketball has changed, and that experience usually matters.
It does
anymore. And I believe that is part of the reason why we're seeing Kentucky being down the list compared to what we are. And here's my thing. I think it's going to be very interesting this year to watch and see, because I think Calipari doubled down. I think Calipari doubled down on this and said, "The hell, I'm going to do it my way, the way that I've always done it, the way that got me to the Final Fours before." And he doubled down, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out this year.
Well, and like I said a minute ago, I said you can tell with this team they're a completely different team.
What happens? I know that we're Kentucky fans and we don't want to think about this. What happens if we bow out early and we don't get to where we think we are this year? We should this year. What happens?
I think the same old stuff you had before. You had the fire cow stuff, and you get fans acting foolish again, like myself and you and everybody else. I mean, we all do it, but I think there's some like you said though, there's something special about this team, and I think that like I even told you,
there's something
different about there's just something different about this team.
I love Dilly and Shepard coming off. I love Dilly and Shepard coming off the bench. They give an enthusiasm, and they just love the game and love to play, and they see the floor so well, and they are active all over the floor. And I mean, and this team has player after player.
I even told people about Rob Dillingham. You're going to like him, but there's going to be times where you hate him. You don't like what he does, like some of the with the dribble and the handles, and he's going to make.
Last night there was a couple of spin moves by Edwards last night that he can lose those out of his tool bag, like down the lane trying to do some spin moves and lost the ball. He can get rid of those. I don't need those.
Yeah.
I'm just.
But like I said, this team can be special. They can do special things. I'm going to tell you what can change the narrative. And I've been saying it for almost a day or two. So next week, Kentucky goes in against a team that's probably got one of the best big men in the country in Hunter Dickinson in Kansas. And they got their guard. They got the Harris kid back. They got some players on that team. Kansas is tough. They whipped NC Central last night, but let's be fair. NC Central is probably a great school team compared to these other schools. But at the same time, if they beat Kansas next week, that narrative changes. Because you went in and you beat the number one team. Oh, Bo, give it a rest, brother.
I mean, I agree with you 100%. What's
think they'll make the
saying?
tournament.
I'm trying to get it up there.
There's no way. As good as they are, there's no way.
Yeah. Bo, that's not even close to being a reality. I mean, they may bow out early or something, but not make the tournament is a really far stretch.
Well, we got to remember who Bo is. He's a Tennessee fan.
I know. But I'm just saying that's a pretty far stretch.
I gotta give you a whole way
Jerry,
to go, bro.
I love that this team spreads the floor, plays fast. I love when Dillingham and Shepard come in and they play fast and get the ball up the floor. They see it really well. I love when they play 4 and 5 out, spread the floor, and shoot the three. And I hope that they continue to do that all year long. It's going to be a very interesting season.
Well, if you looked at the stat sheet last night and you see the 3-point attempts, Calipari you would think Calipari would put a stop to it. I mean, from his past teams.
Let me tell you a little something about those 29 attempts, 3-point attempts last night. That is the third most in any game ever in the Calipari era.
That's insane.
29 3-point attempts. That's the third most ever in the Calipari era at Kentucky.
By the way, Bo, I love
Another
you,
little
my man.
tidbit for you right there.
Bo's my buddy.
I'm just messing with him, Bo. I'm just messing with
Yeah,
him.
Bo's
I'm
my
not going to have
buddy.
you on, so
I love Bo. Bo's my buddy.
just messing with him. All right, guys. I'm gonna call it. That is our show for tonight. Our next show is going to be Thursday night. We're going to do our college game day pick'ems at 8:00 Central Time, and it'll be me and John again. And we will go through and tell you how we did last week. And I think we both did pretty good last week.
Hey,
I think so. Anyway, I
Indiana
haven't
Indiana
totally checked
upset
yet.
Wisconsin. Indiana upset Wisconsin.
They did. You called one. You
I
did. I
did.
think
I
we
called
both
it,
did
man.
pretty good last week.
Are you kidding me, man?
Yep. And so we're going to update how we did last week, and then we're going to pick some games. We're also going to throw in a few basketball games this week because we got some pretty good games. So we're going to throw in 3 or 4, 5 basketball games this week. So
There's a couple
stay
good ones on Friday night.
tuned for that, and it'll be on Thursday night. Be a couple of days from now, and we'll give you our college sportscast game day pick'ems, guys. So Jerry and Bo and who else has been on here with us?
Leah.
Good old boys fantasy said what's up. Leanne Harris Eaton has been on here with us, and we appreciate you guys being with us. So we will see you guys on Thursday night. This has been College Sportscast, the Big Fuss Show. I changed it up a little bit tonight. Y'all have a good night.